Ever since I installed Alpine Linux on my ThinkPad X200, which I made a video about back then, was half a year ago roughly, I haven't changed my shell. It's still the default Alpine Linux shell, ASH. I don't know how to pronounce it, I just say ASH. And to be honest, I really like it, so much so that it has kind of become my favorite shell. I mean, I don't use it on my other computer. I still use, I think Bash it is over there, because I just haven't bothered changing it, but I really like ASH. It doesn't really have any special features, to be honest, because it's just a shell. It doesn't do syntax highlighting, it doesn't do really auto-completion, like you would, for example, expect with Bash. And for example, if you type ls and then type a hyphen to insert your flags, I think Bash, or also CSH and also the fish shell, they all can do like auto-completion. ASH doesn't do that, of course. And ASH is really kind of the same as Dash, if you know that from Debian. And Debian's Dash, what Dash stands for is Debian ASH. And what ASH stands for is Alquim's shell. So if I switch over to my browser, I have this documentation page pulled up about ASH. And if I go up here, it stands for Alquim's shell. And this is just the guy who wrote it back in the late 80s, I think. And it kind of documents all the different versions. Also, the one I'm using, which is, of course, BusyBox, because that is what Alpine Linux comes with by default. And they have this nice graphic over here, where they kind of have this, so the timeline and how all of the shells like evolved and stuff like that. So we have the original Alquim shell, Alquist shell, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and it kind of evolved into this and this and that, and here we have Debian ASH, and it then turned into Dash, and and so on and so forth. And here we have BusyBox ASH, which forked from Debian's, I guess. So I mean, and this is kind of all historical stuff, but I still found it interesting. And Android used to use ASH too, but I think they then switched to K-Shell or something like that, or MK-Shell. Anyways, I really like the speed of ASH, I really like its simplicity. Again, I don't even have a config file for this thing. If I just type ASH, there's only the history file. And on that I want to note that ASH is doing a better job on keeping my shell history than Bash, out of the box at least. Because with Bash I always to this day, and I never bothered fixing it, I always have the problem that I lose stuff from my history when I have multiple terminal emulators open. And with ASH or Ash, I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest, I don't have this problem. So if I had that, you will see the you will see the commands I ran when I first set up, like the first commands I ran after the initial installation. Like these were all the things I said, like I typed in as my user, as my normal user. Like these were the first things. Like I think this may even be in the video I made about like setting up X11 on this Alpine box I have here. I mean, like, okay, cool. And I didn't, and if I count lines, it has like almost 11,000 lines right now. So, and there's everything in there, so it didn't delete anything, and it automatically keeps track of everything, and I don't have to like Control D, close the terminal, or stupid stuff like that, like I kind of am used to with Bash, that it just doesn't really keep all my history. And I don't know why. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but and I think I've already like searched the internet for like Bash, keep all the history, stuff like that, but again, I never bothered fixing it, because it just kind of seems stupid that a shell wouldn't just be able to append a line to a file, like, to be honest. And ASH is doing that perfectly fine. And again, I don't even have a config for the shell. I'm using just like straight out of the box how it is. And what can I say? It has all the stuff I require, and it even has kind of taught me to live less in the terminal. And I think this whole like setting up Alpine on this X200 ThinkPad and kind of using it for not really all of my work, but only for, well, mainly like all the stuff I'm like recording videos, but also writing text and stuff like that, and also doing programming and like programming websites and whatnot. It has really kind of changed my, like how I interact with the computer, I think. because I used to have a lot of like aliases with bash, like aliases like LTR to run ls LTR, which is to list out the contents of a directory and sort them by the timestamp. And whenever I want to do this, I just write ls-ltr nowadays. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. You might say that and think, well, that's stupid. Like, why not just have LTR? I mean, yeah, maybe it would be more convenient, but I found that it's just like less overhead that you have to keep in your mind, especially if you work like with like servers and stuff like that, and then you think, well, no, this doesn't work on the server, and this only works in my normal user, but not in a root user and not in a Git user and stuff like that. And if you just keep everything like at the defaults, everything works the same everywhere, if that makes sense. And I kind of found that to be very nice, to be honest. And I mean, I'm not arguing for not customizing stuff, no, not at all. But when it comes to shell, I found it very nice to not do that, to be honest. And I mean, I have like scripts for everything. I mean, if I list out my local bin, I have like a bunch of scripts. This is kind of it. Yeah, so I think the gist of this video is that I kind of streamlined my computing by not getting into this whole, well, let me customize everything, let me make my shell super interactive and colorful and whatnot. I mean, the shell is there to automate stuff, I think. And I might expand on this in another video or something, or in a text. The shell is there to automate stuff, and I think if you do too much in the shell, I think you're doing it wrong, to be honest. So what I've found for me, this is what I want to say, is that I have streamlined my computing kind of. Also with these videos, I have like written a script, and I would show this or share this in another video or something. I've written a script which does everything automatically. Well, pretty much everything, and and this is the same with pretty much everything else. Like I have scripts for everything nowadays, or at least let me say for like the major things. And what I don't have scripts for, I normally use Emacs for. Like for example, managing Git, I do that in Emacs because Emacs has the best Git interface, Margit, and stuff like that. Or managing my passwords, I use passmenu or the dmenu script for pass for that, because that's just the best, and stuff like that. So, I mean, using a shell is really kind of a bad substitute, I think, for a lot of stuff where there's just better interface software. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. I think I'm just repeating myself at that point. So, like to summarize, I like ASH because of its simplicity, also its speed. I think I mentioned it in the beginning briefly. And also because it has kind of, yeah, changed my view and my computing habits, kind of forced me, well, forced in quotes, forced me to like streamline my computing, to like make steps repeatable, to have the same workflow, to be able to script things so they just behave the same all the time. And yeah, I think that the greatest point is really that it just keeps my history. Like, so, and I mean, that's not like a minor point, that's like a very, very big point, because then you can search your history for stuff. So if I Control R, I can just search for ls. And it just, well, okay, in this case it's trivial, but yeah. So for less trivial stuff, this is really important, I think. Yeah, okay, that's it. I think that's all I wanted to say. Have a nice day.